Well, well, if it isn't our old friend...
Square Enix RPG, of course.
That's right, just when you thought the June Direct couldn't have any more Square Enix news, we may have just found some more for you. Well, sort of. Xenoblade Genesis is a mysterious new entry in Monolith Soft's acclaimed JRPG series, and its relationship to the other Xenoblade games is hard to pin down. But after poring over the details of its reveal trailer, we may have found a few new details to tie it to the main series, and as it turns out, its strongest connection may not be to a Xenoblade game at all, but rather the 1998 Squaresoft published game, Xenogears. For those that don't know, the Xeno series has existed well before Nintendo's original Xenoblade Chronicles in 2010, and has switched publishers multiple times throughout its history. Before Nintendo, the series was published by Bandai Namco from 2002 to 2006, and known as Xeno Saga, featuring an entire trilogy of its own exclusive to the PS2. However, if we go back even further, we'll reach the game that started it all, the 1998 Square Enix published cult classic Xenogears, which was exclusive to the PS1. Despite the different names, publishers, and platforms, the Xeno series is tied together by creator Tetsuya Takahashi, who's credited as a writer on every Xeno game to date except for one. Xenogears may be one of the JRPG genre's most fascinating games, originally being pitched by Takahashi and his wife as a proposal for Final Fantasy VII, then being greenlit first as a sequel to Chrono Trigger, then as its own original game. Despite its praise from critics and massive cult following, the game ultimately fell short of Square's sales expectations, and a sequel was never ordered. But that didn't stop Takahashi from imagining one would be. Wanting the series to be a space epic in the vein of Star Wars, Takahashi laid out an entire 6-episode roadmap for Xenogears, known as Perfect Works, in which he referred to the Xenogears we know as Episode 5. But what does any of this have to do with Xenoblade Genesis? Well, if we look at Episode 2 of Takahashi's Perfect Works series, we'll see that the title is none other than Genesis, and takes place about 10,000 years before the events of the original Xenogears, possibly explaining the less sci-fi setting. Now, I know what you're thinking. This really doesn't prove much. Takahashi loves his religious imagery, so using the title Genesis is nothing new for him. But don't worry, these aren't the only ties to Xenogears. The real ties come from our monstrous friends in the Xenoblade Genesis reveal trailer. Our protagonist can be seen riding a wolf-like creature in the trailer that looks near identical to the jackal enemies from the original Xenogears, even down to the color of their fur. What's interesting about this is that Xenoblade games have their own jackal enemy that looks nothing like this design, so why go with the clear reference to the Xenogears style? And the jackals aren't the only case of this, as this big guy here bears a striking resemblance to the Gonzalez enemy from Xenogears. And in the absence of Nopons, we see this furry little guy who looks like they could be from the Chu Chupalim race that is exclusive to the Xenogears series. To top it all off, while we did mention that the time period of 10,000 years ago lent itself to a less sci-fi setting, that's not entirely accurate. If we look at Episode 1 of Perfect Works, we'll see that it involves humanity setting out from Earth in a massive spaceship looking for a new home, eventually crash landing on a planet mentioned in Episode 2. And thanks to some eagle-eyed viewers, we can see that the Xenoblade Genesis trailer is not completely devoid of sci-fi elements after all, as what at first looks like a mountain in the background may actually be the tip of the crash-landed spacecraft from Xenogears upon further inspection. It's possible these are all nothing more than clever nods to the series' roots by Takahashi, but given Xenoblade's penchant for including references to previous Xeno games in the past, we think it's possible Genesis could truly be the game to tie the Xeno series together fully and bring it into a new era for the Xenoblade franchise. While the differing publishers might pose a threat to this, we've seen in the past with both Xenoblade and other Nintendo titles that third-party publishers are willing to play ball with these types of projects. Xenoblade 2 famously featured one of the main characters from the Bandai Namco series Xeno Saga, with Cosmos appearing as a rare blade. Also, the Future Redeemed DLC for Xenoblade 3 makes plenty of Xeno Saga references, as well as a few references some fans speculate could relate to Xenogears. Outside of the Xeno series, Square recently has been seen playing nice with Nintendo for the remake of their 1996 developed RPG, Super Mario RPG, which many thought we would never see due to Square's partial ownership of the IP. All this to say, we could be in for something really special with Xenoblade Genesis that could prove to be a monumental title for JRPG fans in the end. That's all for this video. I've been Zach Volpicelli. Be sure to subscribe to GameXplain for more Xenoblade Genesis coverage and all things gaming. Ciao guys!